Hi everybody, this is a short video to help you with the 7.4 warm-up, which is all about square roots. So this is just a brief review of square roots. In case you don't remember what a square root is or how they work, this will help you with that. Alright, so let's get started. Alright, so square root review. So right here we have the square root of 9. And the word square root is the opposite of squared. So when we say something is squared, that'd be something to an exponent, right? Like x to the 2 would be x squared. So the square root is like undoing the square. And that's saying that the number that when multiplied by itself equals the inside number. So basically, if you had any number squared, it would equal this inside number. So let's talk about terminology. When I say inside number, this is called the radicand. And then this check mark looking thing is called your radical. I apologize for that terrible writing. It was hard to fit it in my iPad here. So the check mark thing is called the radical. The number inside that is being square rooted is the radicand, okay? So when you think about it, what number times itself equals 9? This is a perfect square, so a lot of people have these memorized, but the answer is 3. And so if you didn't have this memorized, I'm going to show you how to solve for that on the next slide, okay? So the perfect square is when the square root of a number is a whole number. So when we say what number multiplied by itself equals 9, if that number is a whole number, then the square root of 9 is a perfect square. So sometimes they're not always going to be perfect squares. Sometimes a number times another number to get the radicand is like an infinite decimal. So those are a different situation. We're going to talk about that in a different video. But for this, we're just talking about perfect squares. So let's say that you don't have the perfect squares memorized, and so you don't know how to figure out which numbers multiply together to get 9. So you can actually use your calculator to figure this out. There's a square root function on the calculator. So if you have a TI-83 or a calculator similar to this, you can turn it on and hit this second button. And what the second button does is it allows you to use all of the words that are written in yellow. So you'll see that that check mark thing, our radical, is on the x squared button, but it's in yellow, so we can hit that. And we want to take the square root of 9, close parentheses, equals 3. Okay. If you don't have the TI-83, then you can use the computer calculator or your phone calculator. So for a computer calculator, it's actually going to work similar to the TI-83, where you hit the second, and then you want to hit the button that has the radical and the 2, because we want our number to be used as a factor twice. We want to know what number times a number, so there's 2 numbers there that are being multiplied to get the radicand, okay? Where the cubed root here, there's a 3, we'd be having 3 numbers multiplied together, but we only want 2, okay? So you want to hit this button, but you want to make sure, sorry, that's my fault, you want to make sure you type the number that you want to take the square root of first. So we're taking the square root of 9, you hit second, then you hit the square root, and then you get 3. So cell phone calculators should be similar to the computer calculator in terms of setup, only you might have to, instead of using your phone vertically, flip it horizontally with like portrait orientation mode unlocked so that the camera or the calculator will actually flip. And so it actually gives you more functions when it does that. So you might have to do that to get that function on your phone. So now I want to show you one last scenario with variables, because you can't plug variables into the calculator to get the square root of those. So remember when we said that a square root just means that we want to know the value that multiplies by itself to get the value inside. So if we had the square root of x squared, what numbers multiply to get to x squared? We have x times x. So because we have two x's, then that ends up being our answer. So the square root of x squared equals x, okay? So what about if we had square root of a to the sixth? So what times itself would get a to the sixth? So you can think about this as, well, I know that there are 6 a's here, right? To write out 6 a's. And if we said, well, this times this means if we only wanted one, right? Because we only want the number that multiplied by itself. So the number that we're multiplying by itself is a3, okay? So sometimes you'll be asked to find square roots of variables as well, which you cannot plug in your calculator. A lot of people think that because calculators have the ability to type letters, they can perform operations with variables, but that's only if you define the variables and give them a value in the calculator. So please do not try to simplify variable operations in the calculator. Please write it out, try to work it out on paper, do it by hand, because the calculators will not do it for you. But that's pretty much it. Just knowing that perfect squares are whole numbers. And so we can really easily kind of memorize those or use a calculator to give us the whole number answer. But when they're not perfect squares, we have to simplify them in another way. And we'll see that on the next video. So hopefully this was a quick refresher for you and will help you on the warm-up. And as always, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. See you later.